It's time for Schippers Unscripted again. Welcome to Mondays. And today's going to be an interesting one. Today, we're going to rip the scab off and we're going to get right into it. And here it is. If you can't fire your mom, you can't lead. Let that sink in. We'll get into it. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Mask, Schippers Unscripted. And it is unscripted, isn't it? So we'll see how today goes. But yeah, I actually truly believe, and I'm sure it's probably going to be somewhat controversial for people, if you can't fire your own mom, you can't lead. You're just pretending. Why do I say that? That's probably shocking to some people, and I get that. I fully understand that. But so let's cut right to the chase here. Been in this business of trying to lead people since I was 18. Got thrust in pretty early, made a lot of mistakes along the way. Here is the number one reason why people can't lead well, and that is they can't make hard decisions. Okay, so what do I mean by that? For instance, let's say somebody commits a terminable offense, or let's say they've had a string of situations where it's clear you should not retain them. I'm not saying these are bad people. I'm just saying based off of the circumstances, it's clear you need to separate from that person. People struggle with that. They really do. To be honest, like that is the number one trait. Like when I'm looking to hire somebody to work on a team or work with me, the number one thing I look for in hiring into a leadership position or promoting into a leadership position is, can you perform the difficult parts of leadership? And the most difficult part of leadership, hands down, is terminating or releasing or even downsizing for that matter. And I don't say that to be cold and uncaring. I understand that in essence, what's happening is you're having a severely negative impact on that person's life. I get that. But let's lean into your obligation as a leader. As a leader, you have an obligation to the organization that you serve. Now, what do I mean by that? Because this is where it gets tricky and people get lost, and it turns into an emotional fear game. Okay, and you're going to hear about fear a lot from me because I've seen this manifest repeatedly over 30 plus years. Okay, people are afraid of other people's opinions. People are afraid of what people are going to think. People are afraid that people are going to be mad at them. All of these things, and that impedes your ability to make good decisions. You go into emotional decision-making mode. I'm not saying being cold and callous and cruel. You have to be firm but kind. Okay. You can release somebody and let them walk out with their dignity. But so here's where people get caught up. They start worrying about what are people going to think and all these things. And that's true. And I'm not making light. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. I mean, it has, perception and image to a certain degree has a impact on us as leaders. And I get that. And I'm not walking away from that. You have to I'm not going to say control that, but you have to be cognizant of that in how your actions are going to be read, so on and so forth. But I also think you need to be authentic in the process. So one of the things that people get lost on is that I am focused on the fear piece, but here's your obligation. Let's talk about the obligation. So one, I'm going to be honest, so I have, obviously a CISSP. There's a lot of ethics and integrity codes out there. I've actually basically sworn that I will uphold those codes. And the primary behind that is I have to do what is best for my primary or the organization that I work for. So people get hung up on, well, it's hard for me to do this. I get that, but that's what you're paid to do. And here's the other thing. People are like, well, you're so cold and you're thinking about just the org itself. And that you have to think about the org. But when you think about the org, you have to realize that you are trying to maintain a productive, profitable, and stable environment that benefits all of the other employees, including yourself at that org. If you are compromising your decision makings and standards and you will not hold accountability because it's difficult to do, you are not leading. I'm just going to be straight up. You are not a leader. Full stop. You can hate me for saying that. Authentically, you cannot lead if you are making emotional decisions. Meaning, well, I'm afraid they're going to be upset with me, so I don't know that I can do this. And if you are making delays and pushing it off and hoping it will go away, I'll say have some articles out there. We'll probably get into the theater of delay. I'll talk about that too. You go into the theater of delay and you're just lying to yourself. That's all you're doing. You're just lying to yourself. I've done it myself. I have had situations where I should have walked somebody based off of behavior, and it was repeated, and it happened for months, if not years, in some cases, early in my career, and I should have pulled the decision earlier. And it negatively impacted the team, the production, and the organization, and I compromised my principles and compromised both the org as well as all of the other people that depend on working for that org for their livelihood. It's not just about profitability. It's about accountability and standards. And if we think that the other people that work in our org don't see what you're doing, you're drinking your own Kool-Aid. It's that simple. I have found that if you think you're controlling what people are seeing or saying and all these things, you're definitely drinking your own Kool-Aid. Period. So apparently Burn the Script endorsed that when it fell, right? So there it is. We'll kind of roll with it. But and why do I say your mom? Okay, because you're like, Dave, that's freaking harsh. Firing your mom is harsh. It doesn't, your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, it doesn't matter. I use that example because that's probably going to be the hardest release you would have to do. But here's my point. You don't just go, oh, I'm just going to get rid of them. But if they're in a terminable situation and you can't stand up and go, it's a terminable offense, it's defined. Policy says they should be released. And if you can't release them because you are emotionally invested in your relationship with them, again, you are not leading. It's that simple. Now, I get it. It takes time and effort to get over these situations, but you have to build up the ability to make the hard calls, focus on the truth and the clarity that is associated with the situation, and say what is best. And my comment to everybody as we wrap up this video is you should always be focused on the long game. A lot of people make decisions based off the short game, and sometimes you have to pivot. I get it. You should always be thinking long game. How does this set us up or destroy us and cut our legs out from underneath us if we don't follow the right path? That is the litmus test, in my opinion, that I have followed and has been the guiding light in helping make sure I'm on the right path. So again, I know it sounds harsh. I use the example of firing your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, whatever. It doesn't really matter. They're close to you. There's heavy emotional ties. But if you can't navigate that and make the decision that is expected from the perspective of accountability and standards, you're not leading. You're just not. You're lying to yourself that you are a leader, and it is what I call, within the book, leadership theater. It's nothing but pretending. And people see through it. As I wrap up, the number one thing, so I've taught a lot of different leadership classes. I've spoken with a lot of different people about leadership. And the short version is, I can tell you the number one complaint that I have heard from students and in different orgs is, my leaders do not hold others accountable consistently. They see it. They may not say it, but they see it. So that's my point to you. So that's it. We're going to wrap up this week on Schippers Unscripted, Beyond the Mask, Schippers Unscripted. Again, I'll say apparently, my shadow reached out, pulled the book down as a reminder. If you're interested in more perspectives from me on leadership, head out to Amazon, look up Burn the Script, Kill the Leadership Theater, Lead for Real. We appreciate it if everybody wants to jump in on that. Otherwise, keep watching the channel. We'll keep giving you new drops every week with some new conversations and some new ticklers, and we're gonna have some people coming up on the on this channel soon too. So look forward to that. Everybody have a great week. Thanks.